Hi guys, Willy here. I've been making lots of baby blankets, but this is the first one I've made a video for.
At the end of my video, I've included some images of my blanket as I was crocheting, and if you want to see what happens when I stay out far too late crocheting, you might want to stick around for that bit.
In the meantime, let me give you a closer look at this blanket. As you can see, the pattern's based on a granny square, so the blanket is mainly worked in double crochets and chains, with a little bit of single crochet for the border, and it is a beginner-friendly, achievable blanket. I turn the blanket each round so it's reversible and it stays nice and square. The first round is a basic granny square. The next two rounds are a solid granny square pattern. Then for round 4, I've introduced a contrasting colour and changed up the pattern a bit. It's similar to fillet or filet crochet. Then back to the first colour and a solid granny pattern for 3 rounds. Then 1 round of the simple fillet pattern in the second colour. And you just keep repeating those 4 rounds. 3 rounds of solid, 1 round of fillet until the blanket is big enough. And then you can add a border. The border's optional. You can just stop the blanket at any solid round if you prefer. If you're using this border, work a fillet round and 1 more round of the solid pattern, then start on the border. It's worked over 4 rounds and it uses both colours. As you can see, the final round gives a nice hint of a frill, and the corners echo the teardrop gaps that run up the diagonal of the blanket. To make this blanket, you need 2 colours of yarn. You can use whatever weight you like. I'm going for a baby yarn for obvious reasons. I've got mint and cream. You'll also need a pair of scissors for snipping, your needle for sewing in the tails. Mine is impaling sheepy here. Stitch markers will help you to find the corners when you're working the border. And of course you will need the crochet hook that your yarn label recommends. I've got my 3.5mm hook. My yarn label does recommend a 3.25. This yarn is soft, but it's quite dense, and with my crochet style I needed the slightly larger hook. Start with your colour 1 yarn, the colour you'll use for most of the blanket, and put a slip knot on your hook. Then chain 4. When you have your little chain of 4, slip stitch to the first chain, the one with a knot at the end of it. To slip stitch, insert your hook into the first chain. You only need to catch 1 loop of it. Yarn over and pull through the chain and pull through the loop on your hook. That has created a tiny circle, and we're going to work the first round into the center of this circle. And if you can, also work the round 1 stitches over this tail. I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can start a round when you're not bringing in new yarn. You can use these methods whenever you start a round, but I'm only going to demonstrate them this time. The first option is the easiest. It's to start with a chain. Some people prefer a chain of 2, some people prefer a chain of 3. Which one you'll like, I think, will depend on the height of your double crochets. That's option 1. Option 2 is an alternative starting stitch. Moogly has done a wonderful video on this method, but here is a brief demonstration. Pull up your working loop, about as tall as a double crochet. Yarn over with that loop. Hold it in place with your finger and kind of wrap it around your hook. Now insert your hook into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. You now have 2 loops plus the bit that you're holding onto with your finger. Yarn over and pull through 2. You can now let go of that bit you're holding onto, yarn over and pull through to finish the stitch. I've split my yarn a little bit, but you still get the idea. As you can see, this looks a bit more like a double crochet than a chain does. It has something approximating a V at the top, so you can slip stitch that V to finish the round quite easily. That is option 2. Option 3 uses stacked single crochets. This method looks better in the later rounds than it does for this first round, but you may like to have a play around with it. You're going to start by chaining 1. Now single crochet by inserting your hook into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. There are 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops. Next, chain 1 and insert your hook behind the 2 vertical pieces of yarn from your single crochet, just here. So you're not going into the top of the single crochet. We're going to make another single crochet by yarning over and pulling up a loop. There are 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the single crochet. So that again gives something that looks a little bit like a double crochet. It's fatter than a double crochet, but the shape is a little more alike than a chain is. It's another method you might like to experiment with. And regardless of which of those methods you use, we can now continue the first round together. The first stitch you made, whether it's a chain or an alternative starting stitch, will count as your first double crochet. You need another 2 double crochets to form the first side of the square. There are a lot of double crochets in this blanket, so if you're not comfortable with them now, I think you will be by the end of the blanket. Yarn over and insert your hook into the center of the circle. I have 2 loops on my hook, plus the circle and its tail. Yarn over and pull up a loop. There are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. There are 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 to finish the double crochet. Let's do that together again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the circle again. I have 2 loops on my hook plus the circle and its tail. When I yarn over and pull up a loop, there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. There are 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. That finishes the first side. I have a chain of 3 and 2 double crochets. You might have an alternative starting stitch and 2 double crochets. Now we'll work the first corner by chaining 2. And we'll do the second side by working 3 double crochets into the circle, making sure we work them over the tail. The square has 2 sides now and 1 corner. We'll work the next corner by chaining 2. And the third side by putting another 3 double crochets into the center of the circle, working them over the tail. I have 3 sides and 2 corners. I need to work another corner by chaining 2, and the final side by working another 3 double crochets into this circle, still wrapping the tail up in my stitches. My first round's nearly finished. I have 4 sides and 3 corners, so I need to work the final corner and join it up. So chain 2. You'll slip stitch either to the top of your alternative starting stitch or to the third chain. 1, 2, 3 is my third chain, or you might prefer to find the top of your chain 3 by locating the middle stitch and following it up. When viewed from the front, the top of the stitch is the V that's almost a little to the right. So this is the top of the middle stitch. Go 1 V to the right to find the top of the third chain. You can slip stitch by inserting your hook under the V of the third chain like this. Another option, which is a little easier, is to insert your hook down into the V like this, still catching 2 loops of the yarn. Yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook to slip stitch. That finishes the first round. You should have a little square with 3 stitches for each side and 2 chains for each corner. Start round 2. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to turn each round. That'll stop the square from sloping off in one direction as it gets bigger, and it'll also give us a blanket that's reversible. It won't have an obvious wrong side and right side. Begin by slip stitching into the corner space to the left. This chain space here is the corner from the round below. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Pull that loop through the working loop to slip stitch. Now we can start the round by working along this side. Chain 3 or start the round in your preferred way. That counts as our first double crochet. Work a double crochet next to it, also in the chain space. Now we're going to work a double crochet into each of the stitches along this side from the row below. We're looking at the back of the stitches now. So from the front, the top of the stitch looks like it sits a little to the right. From the back, the top of the stitch looks like it sits just a little to the left. The V at the top of the first stitch is this one just here. I've already yarned over, so I just need to insert my hook under that V and work a double crochet. and then I'll work a double crochet into the next stitch, and then I'll work a double crochet into the third stitch. When you've worked a double crochet in the top of each of the 3 stitches, it's time for a corner, and all of the corners will be 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and another 2 double crochets worked into the corner space from the round below, like this. So that's 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and then another 2 double crochets into the same corner. That corner is done, so let's have a look at the first side and check you're on track. You should have 7 stitches on this side. Starting with a half finished corner, that's my chain 3 and double crochet worked in the corner, and then 1, 2, 3 double crochets worked in the top of the 3 stitches from the round below, then the finished corner, 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and another 2 double crochets into the chain space from round 1. Let's work the next side together. Put 1 double crochet into each stitch from the round below. There are 3 stitches in the round below, so 3 double crochets. The first one goes just here. Make sure you don't add extra stitches in. If you count, you won't get tempted to work an extra stitch into one of the chains that makes the corner. They are these 2, so it can be tempting. This is my 3rd stitch, so I know I finished working along the side. I'm now ready to start working the next corner by putting 2 double crochets into this corner space. And now a chain of 2 and another 2 double crochets into exactly the same spot, that corner space from the row below. Now that corner is finished, let's have a look at the side and check you're on track. You should have 7 stitches along this side. There'll be 2 worked into the corner space, and then 3, 1 into each of those 3 stitches from the row below, and then another corner, which is 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Let's work the 3rd side together as well by putting 1 double crochet into each of these 3 stitches from the round below. Now I've worked those 3 stitches, I'm going to do another corner with 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and another 2 double crochets worked into the chain space. Just look back at that side again to check we're on track. Make sure there are 7 double crochets. Check that there are 2 in the corner space, 3 across the middle, and another 2 in the other corner. Now we can start the 4th side. I started the round in this corner, so we have half a corner done already, but as usual, we'll start with the 3 double crochets worked into each of the stitches from the round below. The first and the second ones are done just like the other 3 sides, but the 3rd stitch will be a little different to work into because it has a slip stitch and it's our funny stitch, either a chain or an alternative starting stitch. This area is going to be covered up by the corner, so don't worry too much about it at this point. Put your 3rd stitch into this spot just here, which is just slightly to the right of the slip stitch. And when you've done that, don't get tempted to add in a 4th stitch. I know it does look like there's a 4th spot, but if you do add that extra stitch in, your square will end up very wonky. So just immediately head over into the corner space and put 2 double crochets in there to finish off our half corner. See, that has covered up that area nicely. It now looks very neat. Now chain 2 and slip stitch to join this all up. I'm going to slip stitch to the top of my chain 3. You might be slip stitching to the top of an alternative starting stitch. Either is fine. At the end of round 2, you'll have a square that has 7 double crochets on each side with chain 2 spaces at each corner. Let's start round 3. Chain 1 and turn your work over. Slip stitch into the corner space, pop your hook in there, yarn over and pull up a loop, and pull it through the loop on your hook to slip stitch. We're going to head along this side to start the round. As with round 2, we'll start by working a half corner. The first stitch is a chain 3 or whatever alternative starting stitch you prefer. Then a double crochet next to it, worked into the chain space in the round below. That's half a corner done. Now we'll work along this side by putting 1 double crochet in each stitch from the round below. There are 7 stitches in the round below, so I'm going to work 7 double crochets in this round. When you've worked your 7 double crochets, it's time for the corner. The corners for this blanket are exactly the same in every round until we get to the border. It's 2 double crochets, chain 2, and another 2 double crochets worked into the corner space from the round below. Now that corner is done, let me give you a look at the first side so you can check you're on track. We started with half a corner. I've got a chain 3 and a double crochet worked into the chain space. Then along the middle here, there are 7 double crochets worked into the 7 double crochets from the round below. Then there are 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and another 2 double crochets for the first complete corner. Let's continue on and work the second side of this round. Along this side, we're going to work 1 double crochet into each of the 7 double crochets from the round below. We're going to start in the top of the first stitch, just here. When you've got those 7 double crochets, it's time for the second corner, which is again 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and another 2 double crochets, all worked into this corner space from the round below. And now we'll work the third side, 1 double crochet in each of the 7 double crochets from the round below. Start in the top of the first stitch, just here. Now you've worked one double crochet into each of those 7 stitches from the round below. We're going to work the third corner, which is again 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and 2 double crochets, all worked into this chain space in the corner of the round below. When this corner is done, I'll give you a look at the side to check you're on track, which I didn't do for the previous side, I'm sorry. It is exactly the same as this side though, so if you need to go back and check, you can compare it to this one. Okay, you'll have 11 stitches in total. That's 2 in this corner, 7 worked into the top of the stitches from the round below, and then the other corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain of 2 and another 2 double crochets. We're up to the final side of round 3. We're going to change colour at the end of this round and follow a different pattern for round 4, so that'll be a nice change. For now, we're sticking with putting 1 double crochet into each of these stitches. That'll be 7 double crochets. Oh, split my yarn, fixed it. Okay, I've worked 6 stitches and I want to show you this area again. This is where we've got the slip stitch and the starting stitch from the round below. I want to be sure you understand how to navigate this spot because it'll come up each round, and I want to make sure you'll only put 1 stitch in here. Just work a double crochet here. I'll pause for a moment so you can have a good look at this area from the side. It could be tempting to put a stitch in here where the arrow is, but leave it empty. This bump the finger is pointing to is the chain 1 and it will be covered up by the corner stitches, so don't worry about it. So to finish round 3, we need to finish the half done corner by working 2 double crochets in the chain space. Chain 2. It's time to slip stitch to join up the round. I'm slip stitching to my chain 3. You might be slip stitching to the top of an alternate starting stitch. Next round will be worked in colour 2, so if you like to change colour on the slip stitch, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, in a moment I'll show you 2 options for changing yarn after the slip stitch. There, let's have a look at round 3. The square is growing. We worked a double crochet in each stitch from the round below, as well as putting 2 double crochets, a chain 2 and another 2 double crochets in each corner. So we've got a square which has 11 double crochets along each side and a chain 2 space at each of the 4 corners. Change to colour 2. I'm going to show you 2 different methods for bringing in a new piece of yarn. There are so many ways to change yarn. When I was learning, I searched for the one right way, and there honestly isn't one. There are many ways. I use a lot of different methods for different projects. So you can bring in colour 2 in whatever way you're comfortable with. I've included these 2 options in case, if you're a beginner, you want to try a different method to see if you can find one that suits you. I'm not saying these are the best or the only methods to use with this blanket. With granny squares, I like to finish the round with 1 yarn, either with an invisible join or a slip stitch, and then bring in the new yarn after the slip stitch. If you don't know invisible joins, there's a link in the description box to my playlist of crochet techniques. Invisible joins look fantastic, particularly in granny squares. So I'll start with the easier of the 2 methods for bringing in new yarn. Option 1 is to bring in your yarn after the slip stitch. Pick up your new piece of yarn and make a fold in it, which creates a loop. I've just folded the yarn, I haven't done anything fancy. Can you see roughly how much overlap I have? The tail needs to be long enough to weave in when you finish to keep your stitches from unraveling. Now grab that loop with a hook and pull it through the working loop. Do you see that bit of the first yarn above the slip stitch? Pull the colour 1 tail to pull it out of sight. You can cut colour 1 now and start working with the new yarn, or if you want the added security, you can tie the 2 tails together. Tie the colour 1 tail to the colour 2 tail. 2 simple knots will do the trick. It's not necessary, but it can feel more stable. Then you can start working with the new yarn. Begin the round by turning and slip stitching into the corner space, just like in the previous rounds. You don't have to chain one unless you want to. The little bit of height from the colour change should be enough. Option 2 is a standing double crochet. First I cut the colour 1 yarn. Then I finish off with colour 1. You might like to chain 1 and pull that chain 1 tight to create a little knot. I prefer to slide my hook out, pulling out the working loop. And this will need to be weaved in so it's nice and secure. I'll use my needle for that, and I will show you how to do that later in the video. Now pick up colour 2 and put a slip knot on the hook. Turn your work over because we're still turning it each round, and we're going to begin in one of the corner spaces. Start the standing double crochet by yarning over on your hook. Pop your finger on top of that piece of yarn so the yarn over doesn't slip off, and insert your hook into the corner space like this. On my hook now I have 2 loops and I have the corner space. The knot is sitting just slightly to the right on the hook. I'll pop my finger back on top of that while I yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I'll use the middle finger of my left hand to hold on to the tail. That will give me a bit of tension. I have 3 loops on the hook now, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. There are 2 loops on the hook, and I yarn over and pull through 2 to finish off the standing double crochet. So that's given me a stitch that looks very like a double crochet, and if you look at it from the top, it even has that V shape of a crochet stitch. So that is the second option for attaching your yarn. Now we can head into round 4. When your yarn is attached, either you'll have your first stitch in the form of a standing double crochet, or you need to work your first stitch. So either chain 3 or work one of the other options for starting a round. Then we'll finish this first half of a corner by putting a double crochet in the corner chain space from the last round. Now we can start the fillet pattern. We're going to work a double crochet in the first stitch, the same as we have in the earlier rounds. Looking at it from above, it's this first V here. But now we change things up. Chain 1, skip this next stitch and work into the one after it, or from the side, skip this stitch and work a double crochet into the next one. We're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch for 3 stitches. So that was 1. Now we'll do 2 and 3. Chain 1, skip 1 and double crochet. From the side, skip 1, double crochet. And we're again going to double crochet into each stitch for the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1 and double crochet, or from the side, skip 1 and double crochet. This double crochet is going into the top of the last double crochet from the previous round. That brings us to the corner, and we're going to put 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and another 2 double crochets into that corner space. Now that corner is done, I'll give you a look back at the side we just finished. You can see it's made up of groups of 3 stitches separated by chain spaces. We started with a half finished corner, so there are 2 stitches, a starting stitch of some kind and a double crochet in the chain space, then 1 stitch next to it, which finishes the first group of 3. Then we have a chain 1 space, and then a group of 3 double crochets, then a chain 1 space and 3 double crochets, and then a chain 1 space, 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets in the corner space, which makes up the last group of 3. So you'll have 12 stitches and 3 chain 1 spaces across the side. Then turn and we'll head down the other side following the same pattern. There are 2 stitches in the corner already, so finish the first group of 3 by putting a double crochet in the first stitch. Then chain 1 and skip 1, or from above, skip this one and double crochet in the next. This is the first double crochet in the group of 3, so you need to put 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches as well. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and work a double crochet in the one after. This is the first double crochet in the next group of 3, so put 1 double crochet in the next stitch and 1 in the one after as well. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and work a double crochet into the last stitch in the round below. And then work your corner, which is 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and another 2 double crochets worked into the corner chain space of the round below. Let's look back at that side now. It's the same pattern. You can see there are groups of 3 separated by chain spaces. We start with 2 stitches in the corner and 1 in the first stitch from the round below to make up the first group of 3. Then a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, then a group of 3, then a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, then a group of 3, then a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, 1 double crochet, and the 2 stitches from the corner make up the last group of 3. Then the chain 2 corner and the 2 double crochets on this side of the corner that start the next side. Let's head into the third side. I hope the pattern is making sense to you. We'll be doing exactly the same thing for this side as for the last side. 1 double crochet in the first stitch, then chain 1, skip 1 and work 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1 and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, and this stitch looks a little bit funny because this is my slip stitch from the round below, but I'm going to put 1 double crochet into the top of the last stitch there. And now it's time to work a corner, so I'm going to put 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and 2 double crochets into this corner space from the round below, but I'm working over the corner that I slip stitch joined in, so I'm being a little bit more careful with it than usual, trying not to pull those stitches apart. And I'm going to work some stitches over this tail as well. I'll just tighten it up a little bit first. So that's the third side of the fillet pattern done, and you can see that we've stuck to that same pattern. We've got groups of 3 double crochets, each separated by a chain 1 space and a skip stitch. There are 12 double crochets and 3 chain 1 spaces. We're up to the 4th side of this round. Hopefully by now the pattern is making sense. I'm going to keep my mouth shut for a bit and you can follow along with my hands if you need help with the pattern. For this last corner, we've already done half the corner, so just put 2 double crochets into this chain space. Then chain 2, and you can slip stitch to the first stitch to finish the round. Let's have a look at the blanket so far. I'm up to 4 rounds and each side of the square has the same pattern. There are groups of 3 double crochets separated by chain 1 spaces. There are 12 double crochets and 3 chain spaces along each side, and there are chain 2 spaces at each corner. From here, this blanket is repetition. Next, you'll go back to the first colour and work 3 rounds of the solid granny square pattern, the pattern we followed in rounds 2 and 3. Then you'll change to colour 2 and work a round of this fillet pattern. I'm going to do one more round of the solid granny square pattern with you, just so you're clear on how to do that when you're working into the fillet pattern, and then I'll leave you to it. But I will be putting pattern instructions up on the screen for you, which should let you keep making this blanket on your own. But first, change to colour 1. Attach the yarn in any of the corner spaces, but remember to turn your work. I've got a slip knot on my hook, so I can start with a standing double crochet. I yarn over on the hook, pop my finger on that yarn to hold it in place, insert the hook into the corner I want to work into. There are 2 loops on my hook and the slip knot is sitting there slightly to the right. My hook is under the corner in that corner space, and I'm basically going to work a normal double crochet. I pull up a loop. There are 3 loops on my hook. And at this point, I hold onto that tail with the middle finger of my left hand, and that gives me some tension. That's holding the slip knot in place back there too. When I yarn over and pull through 2, there are 2 loops on my hook, and then I yarn over and pull through 2 to finish the standing double crochet. If you'd like a refresher on the other method of attaching your yarn, you can open the description box and use the timestamps to navigate back to that bit of the video. When you have colour 1 attached, let's start round 5. The 5th round is a return to the solid granny square pattern we worked for rounds 2 and 3, but we're working into the fillet pattern. I attach my yarn with a standing double crochet, so I have my first stitch. You might need to chain 3 and then work a double crochet into this corner space. Next, we'll work a double crochet into each of these stitches and each of the chains from the round below. The first 3 stitches you work into, it will be the same as usual because we're working into double crochets from the round below. Next, we're working into this chain. You have a choice. You can work into the chain space the same way you work into a corner, insert your hook into the space, or you can work into the chain itself under the V of the chain. It really is up to you. You need to be consistent though, as it looks odd when you change between the two. For my blanket, I worked into the chains. The next 3 stitches are worked into double crochets in the round below. We're back to working into a chain stitch, so do the same as you did with the previous chain. I'm working into the chain itself, not into the space beneath it. Now we're back to working into normal double crochets for the next 3 stitches. And we've reached another chain. So I'm going into it, not under it, as that's what I did for the previous 2. Three more double crochets to work into. And this double crochet, if you have a look at it, this is where I did the slip stitch join in the round below. So it does look a little bit funny. Now it's time to work the corner. 2 double crochets, a chain 2 and 2 double crochets. I'm going to pull on these tails to tighten that area up a bit. There. That's made it look a bit more normal, and the corner stitches have covered up that lump from the slip stitch in the round below. Okay, let's have a look at this side. There are 2 double crochets in the corner here. Then I put 1 double crochet in each double crochet and each chain from the round below. So there are 15 double crochets across the middle area. Then there are 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the corner. So there are 19 double crochets on this side. When counting stitches per side, don't count all the corner crochets, just the 2 per corner that face this side. I'm going to finish crocheting this round, but I'm going to focus less on each stitch. I'll let the video run at normal speed so you can follow my hands, and I'll give you 7 tips for crocheting this blanket. I'll try to point out spots where there's a risk of stumbling and ways to avoid it. The first is be cautious when working the first stitch after the corner. Make sure you are working into the top of a double crochet, not accidentally working into one of these chain stitches from the corner. Tip 2 I've said before, when you're working the solid pattern into a fillet round, be consistent through the whole blanket about whether you work under the chain or into the chain. If you do a combination unintentionally, it looks odd. Tip 3 is to think about where you place the last stitch before you work the corner. It's another spot where you might be tempted to work an extra stitch by putting a double crochet into a chain, thinking it's the top of a double crochet. All I have left are chains, so it's time for me to work the corner. Tip 4 is just a reminder that in both the solid rounds and the fillet rounds, corners are the same. 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and another 2 double crochets in the corner from the round below. Tip 5 is to keep an eye on your stitch count. Instead of counting the entire round stitches, I refer to the number of double crochets per side, which includes the corner double crochets which face that side. Obviously each round the stitch count increases, but you can figure out what your stitch count should be. I'm going to talk you through this, but I'll put pattern instructions up on the screen after this round, so you'll be able to take a screenshot of it if you want to refer to it later. For colour 2 rounds, the fillet pattern, they have 12 more double crochets per side than the previous colour 2 fillet round. For colour 1 rounds, the solid granny rounds, they increase by 4 double crochets from the colour 1 granny round immediately before it, except the first colour 1 round after a fillet round. That increases by 8 double crochets from the previous colour 1 round. If this is too much info in one go, don't worry about it for now and see how you go just crocheting away. Tip 6 is also about stitch count. The stitch count for solid granny rounds is always an odd number. When the blanket gets big, if I don't want to count each stitch, I sometimes just quickly count pairs of double crochets to check that I have one lonely stitch, which means I have an odd number so I can be reasonably confident that I'm on track. Tip 7, the final tip. If you've accidentally added a stitch or lost one, get the stitch count back to where it should be before you start a fillet round, or the pattern won't fit properly. If you don't want to unravel, it's a lot less obvious to miss a stitch or squeeze in an extra one on a solid round than to change up the pattern on the fillet round. Not that I would ever do anything like that myself. Actually, if you want to feel smugly superior, you might want to watch my video that shows how much I frog in a day. It was genuinely just 24 hours worth of unraveling, and it wasn't even that extreme a day. The link is up on screen now, but it's also in the description box if you want a laugh later. I'm going to leave you to keep crocheting your blanket. You'll be repeating these rounds until it's the size you want it to be, and then if you want to put the border on, and I think you should because borders are lovely, you need to stop on a round like this one, the first colour one solid round after a fillet round. The pattern for the blanket will be up on screen once I've slip stitched, and I'll see you in a moment to show you the border pattern. If you have made this blanket, or if you're saving it for later, I'd love it if you click the like button, or if you left me a message to let me know. You can probably tell, but I love to talk about crochet. Okay, time to slip stitch. I crocheted 41 rounds before beginning the border. With the border, my blanket is about 1 square metre or 39 square inches. When you're ready to start the border, after a fillet round, work 1 round of the solid granny pattern. Cut colour 1. If you're attaching your yarn after the slip stitch, do that. I'm going to use a standing double crochet, so I'm finishing with colour 1 and sliding out my hook. Start round 1 of the border by turning the blanket and attaching your yarn in any of the corner spaces. The first border round is very simple. Follow the pattern you've been using through the rest of the blanket for every colour 1 round. The only difference is we're working in colour 2. Pause the video while you do that and switch it back on when you're ready to start the next round. We're changing colour again, and I'm going to use a standing single crochet to attach the colour 1 yarn. Feel free to attach your yarn however you prefer, but don't forget to turn the blanket, then you can slip stitch into the corner space so you're ready to start the round. To use a standing single crochet, put a slip knot on your hook. Insert your hook into one of the corners. The knot is sitting on my hook slightly to the right, and I've got the corner space on top of my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. I now have 2 loops on my hook. The knot is sitting there kind of at the back, and I'm grabbing hold of that tail with the middle finger of my left hand to give myself some tension while I yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. And that, as easy as it is a standing single crochet. Border round 2. Unlike all the previous rounds, this round is worked in single crochet, and we're going to start with a full corner, not half a corner, so I'm moving this stitch over a bit. Sorry, if you're not using standing stitches to attach your yarn, please start with half a corner, 3 single crochets. If you didn't attach your yarn with a standing single crochet, once you've turned, slip stitch into the corner, chain 1 and work your first single crochet so you're up to the same point as me. To single crochet, insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. There are 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 loops to finish the stitch. We need 5 single crochets, including the standing single crochet I attached my yarn with. Now I have my 5 single crochets. I finished the first corner. Next, put 1 single crochet into each stitch from the round below. This round is very like working the solid granny square pattern, except that we're using single crochets rather than double crochets, and the corners are a little different. So I'll leave you to work your way along the side, and I'll meet you at the corner to check you understand what you're doing when you get there. I'm at the corner, so it's time to put 5 single crochets into this corner space. However, if you think you're going to have trouble finding it later, I recommend you put a stitch marker into the 3rd single crochet, which is the central stitch of the corner. I usually mark just 1 corner and I start the next round in that central stitch. But if you're not confident you'll be able to find that central stitch easily, you might want to mark all 4 corners. I'm just slipping my stitch marker under the V at the top of the single crochet. Like that. It'll be really easy to find that to start the next round now. So I've got 3 single crochets in this corner so far. I need another 2. That corner is done. I'm going to leave you to finish this round. Just put 1 single crochet in each stitch from the round below and work 5 single crochets in each corner. When you get back to the start of the round, slip stitch to your first single crochet. This is the last round of colour 1 in the blanket, so fasten off with colour 1, turn your work and attach colour 2 in the 3rd stitch of any of the corners, and we'll start border round 3. I'm going to use a standing single crochet again, so I've put a slip knot onto my hook. I find that corner I marked and insert my hook into the central stitch. I've got my finger on top of the slip knot, but it's just sitting there slightly to the right. I yarn over and pull up a loop. There are 2 loops on my hook, and I'm using the middle finger of my left hand to hold the tail in place while I yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the standing single crochet. This round is very like the previous one. The only difference is the corners. In the central corner stitch of the round below, we're going to work the corner for this round. The corners for this round are 3 single crochets. I've got 1 single crochet already from joining my yarn. I'll work another 2 in the same stitch, just squish them in there. Now that's done, it's back to putting 1 single crochet into each stitch from the round below. When I get to the next corner, I'll put 3 single crochets into the central stitch of the previous round. You might like to mark the 2nd stitch of the other 3 corners to help you in the final round. I hope that sounds simple enough. I'll leave you to do that. When you've worked your way around, slip stitch to the 1st stitch and I'll meet you to finish the border with border round 4. Don't turn before starting this round. Start the final round of the border by slip stitching into the next single crochet along, which is the central corner stitch. I have already slip stitched to join the last round. This is an extra slip stitch. The corners for this final round are worked in the central corner stitch from the previous round. The corners will be a single crochet, a chain of 3 and another single crochet. This first corner will be a little different though. Chain 1 to stand in for the single crochet and then chain 3, or chain 4 if you'd rather, and then single crochet back into the stitch that I slip stitched into. That has created a little loop, and that is our corner. Now I can work my way along the side, and I'm going to follow a simple repeating pattern. That pattern is a chain of 3, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet into the 3rd. And again, chain 3, skip 2 stitches, and single crochet into the 3rd. Once more, chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet into the third. And that's the pattern. Chain 3, skip 2, single crochet. I'll give you a little look. We're creating little frills. If you block your blanket, the frills will be more pronounced. If you don't, they'll look rather sweet anyway. I'll leave you to keep repeating that combination of stitches and I'll meet you in the next corner. Chain 3, skip 2, and single crochet. You'll know you're at the corner when you chain 3, skip 2, and that third stitch along that you'd normally single crochet into, it's the central corner stitch. When you reach the corner stitch, single crochet as normal, chain 3 as normal, but then single crochet back into the same stitch. Simple as that. I've created a nice lacy looking edge to my blanket. The corner I just did is a little teardrop shaped loop, just like this first one. And to start working along the next side, you just head back into that repeating pattern. Chain 3, skip 2 stitches and single crochet into the third one along. I'll leave you to work your way around the blanket and I'll meet you to join up this final round. I'm back at the beginning. I have exactly 2 stitches and then the corner, so I'm going to chain 3. And now I'm going to slip stitch to the first chain, just here. This chain stood in for the first single crochet in the corner. I'm going to put my hook into the chain from the front of my work to the back, like this. I've caught 2 loops of that chain, and I'm going to slip stitch by yarning over and pulling through the chain, and then pulling through the loop on my hook. And the blanket is done. I'm going to cut the yarn now and do some weaving in. If you know how to weave in, you might like to skip ahead a little and have a look at my photo montage at the end. So it's time for everybody's favorite bit of crocheting, sewing in the ends. I'm going to do a couple of tails with you. I've picked the ones I remember finding trickiest when I was a beginner. The first one I'll do is a white tail. I remember being worried because there isn't a lot of room to weave this tail in. The basic rule with tails is to backstitch, over sew, take them back and forth at least 3 times, but you don't want it to show too much or to create a lump that you can feel. So I suggest doing something like this. I have split the yarn. I've gone up and I'm taking it down again. You'll hear conflicting advice about whether to split your yarn or not when you're weaving in. I actually sometimes advise not to. My reasoning is that if you're a beginner, you might need to unravel your work if you find a mistake in it. If you split the yarn, it's very difficult to frog. For myself, I don't split the yarn unless I'm certain I'm finished. Now take the needle into that tunnel created by the corner stitches of the round above. There's some room to move in there and you can go back and forth a bit more. I definitely backstitched more than 3 times. I usually backstitch more than 3 times. I like to know that the blanket can be machine washed. This is definitely much easier with thin yarn though. When you use a thicker yarn, things can get bumpy if you do too much weaving in, so use your discretion. So I'm splitting the yarn again as I head back into the tunnel. Now I'll take it out of the tunnel. That will do. You can cut your yarn off right up close once you've sewn in the tail. Now for the very first tail. It is super important or your blanket will fall apart from the center and you'll be very, very sad. To start, I'll take it in this direction, the way the tail is pointing, because I want to close up this area here, which is the chain from the beginning of the blanket. Slip your needle into the tunnel of stitches and take it along a little way and then out. Pull the yarn through quite hard. I don't necessarily like to close that central hole up completely, but I do want to close up this bit here to give it a neater look. So that's enough for me. But if you pull tighter, have a look. The circle closes up completely. That's a matter of personal taste. I'll open mine up a little. Now, to keep the circle closed or partially closed, you need to secure it in that position. So take the needle back in the direction you came from. I like to go into the tunnel of stitches and split the yarn there so my stitch is hidden. I have snagged the knot though, so I need to pull back and try again. There. And I'll take the needle back into the tunnel of stitches, but on the other side of the circle over here. Then back once more. And I'll take it up a little way, away from the central area. I don't always do this if I think it will show, but this thin yarn is very forgiving. Done. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, you should definitely subscribe for more crochet fun. Give me a thumbs up and do let me know if you're going to give the blanket a go. Who are you making it for? Finally, this is what happens when I stay up way too late with my crochet. This is why my son's toys all have beanies. I swear the owl was giving me such sad eyes.